No one tells you that starting YouTube when you're over 40 is basically a self-help journey with lighting. You think about cameras, but basically it's about battling your own brain. So if you've been spiraling about your thumbnails, your face, if it is actually too late to start on YouTube, then congrats. You're perfectly normal. Let's talk about the 5 mistakes that many people over 40 creators make. I've made all of these, and I still make these sometimes, just because, it's a little bit of a creative chaos, really, when you start on YouTube. So if you're a creator, would you agree with that? Put it in the comments if you would agree that there is some semblance of chaotic creativity when you start YouTube. Mistake number 1 is overthinking your niche like it's a life sentence as opposed to something you're choosing to do. I know we are used to thinking in long-term decisions like career paths, mortgages, retirement plans. So why wouldn't we treat YouTube the same way? It's got us here, but what got us here may not get us there, if you know what I mean. The reality is most successful creators didn't start with their final niche. And if you are already a creator, how many channels have you had so far? Are you on your first one, your second, your third? Or how many channels do you have? Let me know in the comments if you are a creator and you've got more than one channel. So they started with curiosity and they refined by just creating, really, as if there's any other way to refine your content, right? Because, as I always say, you can't imagine making videos. You can't imagine making thumbnails. You can't imagine making video after video and all of that fun exploratory stuff that YouTube is without rolling up your sleeves and doing that old work. So what could you explore now if you could just let go of all of the thinking about it? What would you make your channel on? Because, and we're going to come back to this theme, you need to give yourself permission to start messy and start real. Yeah, I know, you've heard that thousands of times before. I have too, which is probably why I'm saying it, because it resonates so much with me. Honestly, I think that my whole channel is really going to be about starting messy and starting real. So why don't you give that a go? If you haven't yet started on YouTube and you're a bit scared, I get it. We're all scared. I was scared tonight. I haven't filmed a video in about 3 weeks' time. And so I've actually been sitting here procrastinating and listening to music and then just thinking, oh, do I have any messages on my WhatsApp? Or maybe I'll just check my emails and that kind of stuff. And so the thing is that, yeah, start messy, start real, and just get on with it. Get on with it. Because clarity comes through action, not planning paralysis. Okay, listen up. Here is a listen to your quiet voice question. If you don't know yet what your niche will be and you want to start a channel, what I want you to think about is this next question. And when I ask the question, you're probably going to think of an answer inside your head. And the trick is, I don't want you to discount that answer. I want you to just hold on to it, and I want you to get a read on it so that you remember. So don't just, rush along after I've asked the question and then something comes to your mind. But my question is, let's say you didn't know, you haven't settled on the niche that you are going to make your videos in. If you did know what your niche was, what would it be? Stay quiet and try and catch it and recognize if you did know, what would that be? Okay, so just remember that thought because you never know, it might just come in handy later on. Okay, so let us imagine that you've stopped overthinking your niche. Mistake number 2 is designing thumbnails for you, not the scroll. I'll say that again. Mistake number 2 is designing thumbnails for you and not the scroll. What do I mean by that? So I totally get it. We are in a generation that possibly for many of us, we like subtlety, simplicity. We like maybe even being a little bit modest. But others of us in our generation are also maybe on the more maximalist side of things. So if we can call the first lot of people minimalists and, the other people on the other side, let's call them maximalists. What I mean by that is if you put so many decorative elements into your thumbnail, how can anything stand out? And it's funny actually, because I have seen thumbnails that are really quite busy, and I have seen that, like the creator, they might be someone who, like, perhaps it's about their clothing or maybe just even the style that their house is in. They love to decorate. So you might be a person who loves to decorate, which is totally okay, but we do just need to consider what works the best in thumbnails. And I am no thumbnail expert. I don't make very good thumbnails, but I do try to put as few elements in my thumbnails as possible, which I think the current trend is on the right track. So I don't get it right, but I just try and keep it more minimalist. So, and one of the ways to tell if your thumbnails are too busy is obviously holding them at arm's length and just having a bit of a look to see what stands out. If you have got something like 5, 7, 8 elements on your thumbnail, the chances are that your thumbnail is probably quite busy looking. So what do I mean by elements? Elements will be the photo, it will be the text, it will be any extra graphics that you have put onto it. It can be how fancy the text is, like have you really popped out an effect on the text so the text can look a bit more involved and detailed as opposed to simple and bold and clear and easy to read from a distance. So graphics, words, too many words is too many words, and I don't know the magic number for how many words you're supposed to put on the thumbnail, but I think it is supposed to be less is more. As I say, I am no thumbnail expert, but the thing is that what stands out the most? Is it the Mona Lisa on the nice naked wall in the Louvre, or is it an art installation? For example, do you know the artist Tracy Emin? I'll try and pop a picture of an example of her art on the screen, and she makes very busy installations. So what do you think is going to stand out more? A singular thing with some space around it, or many, many items and very little space? So try and think of your thumbnails like that. Would your thumbnail grab you if you saw it in like a split second and compared to a whole bunch of others when you're scrolling? So yeah, mistake number 2 is designing thumbnails that you fall in love with. I'm guilty of it myself. I'll be like, whoa, look at that thumbnail. That's a good thumbnail. But actually, then that thumbnail will crash and burn, and then I might need to swap it out again. But then there are other thumbnails that, maybe I've just happened upon being able to make a little bit better thumbnail. So the whole thing is to think of your thumbnail purely as a tool to stop the scroll. Because if you don't stop the scroll, then you know what's going to happen? That's right, no video watch. For example, you might think that red, as I do, is quite aggressive as a colour to have, for example, on your text in your thumbnail. But guess what? It stands out. And what do we need our thumbnails to do? Exactly, especially on phone. Okay, so that's just remembering that everything is reduced down. Like when we have been inside Canva, for example, we get to see it how big, right? Like quite big, and we look at it and we look at it and we look at it and we think it's a pretty good thumbnail. But if you were to look at that thumbnail next to a lot of other thumbnails, and there are free websites that you can pop your thumbnail in and it'll have a lot of other hypothetical, like just created thumbnails next to it. And that just gives you a little bit of context for the competition out there on the thumbnails. So if you don't get the click, you don't get the watch. Okay, so we know that your thumbnails are a work in progress, but moving now to energy, the energy that you're giving on your videos. Are you bringing boardroom energy into your videos? Or, what kind of energy? Let's talk about it. Mistake number 3 is thinking that YouTube is a one-way presentation rather than a conversation. I know, for decades we have had to communicate in professional or quite structured ways like boardrooms, classrooms, offices, coaching teams, speaking in public at work, speaking in public, in other community settings, or just whatever. We are used to, okay, this is it, we are giving the sort of speech now, and that can be a little bit presentery. But we know that YouTube is different, and it's not a presentation, it is not a one-way presentation, but think of it like a conversation, not a seminar. It's not presenting the news. I am just speaking for myself. The news readers here in New Zealand, they can be quite staid and just a little bit robotic. Just some of our news presenters here can be a little bit robotic, but it's not presenting the news. It's about making mistakes on camera. It's about having tech issues. It's about taking risks. It's about not taking yourself too seriously either. It's about laughing it off and just getting on with it. Get the learning and get on with it. Here's a really good example because I watched a fabulous live today that went for quite some time, and the creator had to do a lot of work. I am telling you, they really worked hard. They're going on vacation tomorrow and they definitely deserve it. But think about your favorite YouTuber and they're nattering away, and it's to say they make a mistake or they fumble their words, or just because of everything that's involved with making a YouTube video. But this creator was on a live, and a lot is going on a live. So while we can come back to this, but while there are some easy bits to doing lives, there are, it can look a little bit easier than it really, really is. And so that's kind of part of the fun and the energy and the, let's just like jump into the crazy chaos, the big whirling rock pool. So, sometimes, when a YouTuber makes a mistake, we will see that they might put on the captions on the screen like an asterisk and then the correct word. So, just all of that. But what happens for you when you see that? Tell me in the comments, what happens for you? What are you thinking when a favourite YouTuber makes a mistake in their video? They're either on a live or they're on a video. So do you think, come on, dude, what are you even doing? Why even making mistakes? Are you going to put in the comments the mistake that they made? Do you decide to watch them less often and maybe even drop their subscription level down from gold to silver? All the way down to personalized or even none. And speaking of newsreaders, think about that newsreader. He might have been BBC, I don't remember, during the pandemic, who was reading the news in his home office or study, and I think his kids came in, and then I think his wife or partner came in and sort of scrambled them up and hustled them out the door fast. And then the newsreader just turned back to the camera and he might have said something just to acknowledge it. Or I don't remember whether he just carried on with the news. But what do you think that did for his career? Just have a think about that. Do you think that people thought, I want perfect people reading my news, especially serious, somber news like the kind that you get from the BBC? Do you think that happened to him? I've got to confess, I don't know what happened to him. I'm just guessing that it did good things for that good man. because, he was looking a little bit too perfect, like Clark Kent up to that point. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit suspicious of people who look too buttoned up and put together and just perfect. Kind of like the concert that my daughter went to, is it Raoul, in London today. And I literally replied back to her, that guy does not even look real. What are you doing going to a concert looking at a boy who does not even look real? Come on, okay? Just get back out there with all the normal people, please. So, yeah, okay. All of that is to say, have you heard of the pratfall effect? The pratfall effect is where a competent person makes a mistake, and as a result of them making a mistake, their likability goes up. However, if it is an incompetent person and they make a mistake, what do you think happens to their likability? I know, life isn't fair. It's not fair. Yeah, you guessed right. It goes down. Yeah. So, yeah, all of that is to say, so what do you think of that? Can you tell me in the comments what you think when you see a YouTuber or just a competent person make a mistake? Because I'd be interested to know whether you fall into that generality of this so-called pratfall effect concept. And actually, you know what? I've even heard it talked about like, oh, blah, blah, did a pratfall and blah, blah, when they did their pratfall. So it's a funny little word, isn't it? But it's a good word. I like knowing words like that. Have you heard of the pratfall effect before? I was going to make a whole video on it, and then I saw, this is the truth. This is a true story. And then I saw that there were about 5 videos on YouTube, and they all had about between 10 views and 75 views, and some of the videos were 10 years old. And I thought, yeah, I just can't be running across the motorway recklessly like that. I just can't afford that. So I might just mention it in a good spot in an upcoming video where, it just sort of happens to fit right in there. So I think that's all really that you need to say about the pratfall effect. And yeah, have you heard of it? What do you think of it? Do you think it's true? Right, yes. So we are talking about mistake number 3, which is treating YouTube like it is a one-way presentation as opposed to a conversation. So just to wrap up my little newsreader analogy, and I am talking about some of the newsreaders that I see here in New Zealand, and sometimes I think that they can be just a little bit too conservative, like in their whole demeanour and everything, and I then get distracted by looking at their hands and the way that they just sort of fold their hands in their lap, like, you know what I mean, like the royal family, any country will sit for a big family portrait. And yeah, so do you want to see your favourite YouTuber, sitting there with really neat hands, kind of like back in school? Did they make us sit there with our little hands like right over left or something like that? But yeah, or would you rather be watching a YouTuber that you think, yeah, I feel like we're in a cafe together. I feel like we're having coffee together. And I feel like I'm having one of my best life moments, just hanging out, having a fun time with someone who is relatable as opposed to unrelatable. So yeah, tell me in the comments, have you ever felt like you are presenting? This is if you are a creator now. Do you feel like sometimes that you are presenting instead of connecting? I can definitely feel like that, and that is why it does take me a little bit of time to just warm up and just breathe and just start the intro several times. Yeah, but you are reminded, as I am, that you are speaking like a human being, and we're not speaking like we're reading death by PowerPoints. Let's address an issue, like something a little bit deeper, and this one is a little bit sort of sneaky and kind of personal. And when I was thinking about it, making videos for validation instead of service. So this is a little bit of a quiet trap. If we're not careful, sometimes we can make content that we think it's helping someone, but really it's about proving something to ourselves or others. And I'll give you a bit of an example here. So if you make a video, or if I make a video, it's a good idea to ask ourselves, about the title, the topic that we're making the video about, if only 5 people saw it and it only helped one person, would I still want to make that video? So that is making a bit of a mental shift from how many views did it get to did it give value, how many people did it give value to, because this could be a little bit of a touchy topic, but sometimes I say it too. If this helps one person, then I'm really, really happy. But probably, I'm going to be honest, if I made a video and I realized that it only probably helped one person, maybe one person watched it, for example, I'd be gutted about that. I would be gutted about that because it's a little bit of work making the YouTube videos, but also, honestly, it could just be a bit of an ego hit. But it would be. Yep, I would be gutted about that, that is for sure. But yeah, it's thinking about how many views to did it give some value. And I've been there, you know, I do wake up in the morning and I will have a little play with my YouTube studio because I am foolish like that, okay? I just am. And then as I'm going into it, I'm thinking, oh, what about all the YouTubers telling us to take our studio off? But yeah, I haven't done that because, of course, you need to have your YouTube studio downloaded, don't you? I mean, I cannot envisage a life of functioning on YouTube by just uploading to YouTube and never ever looking at, the results of, of my efforts and analytics. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so if you lose some subscribers, if I lose some subscribers, it's not nice, but it's life, and you just need to develop some thick skin about that because that is life here on YouTube. But another thought I had as well is that we often say that we're making content to help others, to teach something or inspire, and that is absolutely what service looks like. But just on that whole validation piece, let's think about the example of, let's say you are opening up I'm going to give the example of a soup kitchen, a community kitchen where people can come and share a meal. But you open the soup kitchen, but secretly you're hoping that someone is going to compliment your apron, for example. You tell yourself, I'm here to feed the people, but deep down you're thinking, I hope they notice how great I am. So that is that. Are you making it for service or are you making it for validation? Is it a letdown when you don't get as many comments as you want? And I'm the first person to say it is. And that is why when I watch videos, if I'm going to watch the video all the way through, I'm going to be leaving that creator a comment. And even if I get a little bit worried that is this going to now populate my feed on, like, say, not my niche, because we know how responsive, quick turnaround YouTube is, I can just say the word right now, mirror on the wall, and I'm probably going to get Snow White ads for a Netflix movie or at the box office or something. But anyway, I digress. But, when no one says, wow, you're amazing, but they just quietly eat their food, so you know that they are nourished by your food. They've got some good food in their stomach, and just because no one has gone and said, wow, you're really amazing and thank you, that's the validation piece. So the service piece, we've fed the people. The validation piece is what feedback are you getting. So it's just about being aware about, do you want to help just one person, or is that going to satisfy you, or will you give up YouTube after that? Yeah, I guess it's just being a little bit aware of, it takes a long time to warm your channel up and get going on YouTube, get used to the whole thing, and, just don't be giving up early just because we're not getting the validation. We serve and we serve and we serve, and then hopefully the marketplace will tell us that, some people like our videos, which is a wonderful thing if that happens for us. So yeah, you're really there to serve. 20 views or 20 meals served, no comments versus no compliments. Right, okay, we're on the home straight now. So you're making content from the right place, but what if your own face is freaking you out? Okay, let's go there. Mistake number 5 is expecting to feel comfortable on camera straight away. Because we're not 21, we're not used to selfies, we're not used to Insta stories, all of that, which all comes down to seeing ourselves on camera for the first time can be a little bit of a shock. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I'm on a video call, even with my kids, I will try to, hide my view because I just want to see the other person. I want to see the other person. I don't need to see me. But yeah, it can feel like a shock, and it is okay to cringe at your first videos. I don't know any older YouTuber, and to be honest, I wonder if any YouTubers, okay, maybe apart from the beautiful AI looking ones, I mean, if that really is what we call beautiful, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Just that whole, I don't know, stereotype, I don't know, whatever, symmetrical face or something like that. But it is okay to cringe at your first videos. It's not a red flag. It's not something to be easily put off by. And, if you want to make a YouTube channel, you just have to get over it. You've got to make the YouTube channel. And in some ways, and this is what I mean by the whole YouTube journey being a little bit of a self-help journey with lighting, which actually just sort of exacerbates the shock, really. But we're not going back there. We're staying in the place where I'm explaining, get over it. It is normal, okay? The goal isn't to be perfect. It is to be relatable, and it is to be real, and it is about sharing your story, sharing your experience, being honest, being authentic about what you really do think. And like tonight, I've said a couple of things that, could be like a little bit sort of off-putting to people, but it's not my intention to be off-putting, of course. And don't privatize your first videos either. It's a really good idea to keep all of your videos there, just to be seen by your followers, by anyone, because that is motivating. That is motivating for people to see where you started and then to see where you are right now. And then in 5 years' time, you're going to be in a different place again because, you really are going to be rolling out of bed and in truly no makeup, not just the little no makeup, and, able to make those, I've just woken up and I've had a thought, because, you might just be really, really famous in 5 years' time, and, we're all going to be hankering for what thoughts you have on your mind when you first wake up in the morning. All right, so again, that is that pratfall effect as well, okay? Your first videos that people now know you to have you've done the journey, or you've done part of the journey, you've learned some stuff, and now when you look back at your older videos, yep, thank goodness you're a real person, and thank goodness, like it's a service to people, thank goodness you were like that, and you didn't just get born a YouTuber like this after you've made 100 videos. So yeah, don't have a big ego about that. My first video that I made, I waited for probably a couple of years before I made my first YouTube video, and I made my first YouTube video over the pandemic. I'm not saying the C word because, I don't know, everyone seems to be avoiding that just in case you get flagged for making provocative, polarizing, falsehood videos about stuff. And I'm going to actually tell you about my first video, and I might even, it's on another channel, and I might even show a little bit of that video at some stage. Not that I'm anywhere big on my journey right now, but it can be mildly amusing to look at people's first videos. So my first video that I made, I had waited for 2 years to make YouTube videos, and I'd wanted to make YouTube videos, and my first channel was about perfumes and doing perfume reviews. And I'm not sure what it was like in your house, but in my house, we had to multifunction all the spaces. And like one of the bedrooms my bedroom was turned into a gym sometimes when people wanted to work out. So the bed got flipped up on its side and stuff got cleared out the way, and my son accidentally dropped one of my perfume bottles because it was in one of those cardboard like circular boxes where you lift up the top and the bottom just falls out because the perfume bottle is in there being protected from the light. And it fell on the ground and it smashed. And it was a hard to find one. And I'd bought it overseas. And so it wasn't easy for me to get again, because actually in this particular mall I bought it in Melbourne, just that really big mall. I'm trying to think the name of it. And it was the last bottle. So anyway, so then I just thought, make a video. This is it. It's a sign. Make a video about my perfume being dropped. My special perfume I really like. And you just know that I liked it even more. Like the scarcity factor just really went up on it. And it was the one that got away after that. It's the one that got away. I even got scammed trying to buy another bottle because, just the whole offer. And I looked up Trustpilot, but it was all too good to be true. So I got scammed. Thank goodness I got my money back. But I was trying to find, and obviously the scammers just saw that there was a demand in the marketplace. But anyway, so the first video I made, I was sitting up in bed, just reading, and when I thought, actually, I might just make the video now. So I got my iPad. That's very over 40, isn't it? My iPad. And I propped it up on like a little breakfast eating table, or whatever you call those little wooden tables with the pop-outs. It wasn't a bean bag. It wasn't a bean bag tray. Not that particular year, but I just know that I will be moving into beanbag trays, like, those trays with little bean bags underneath that they sell in those little catalogues. So I'm not there yet. I don't have one of those yet. But I thought to myself, right, I'm making the video. And then I thought, maybe I'll make a get ready with me. I'll put on some makeup while I'm sitting here in bed. And I did make quite a special effort, because I then went and I put a bra on, and because I'm not that kind of channel, and I got some makeup, and I got a little mirror, and I just hit record. I really did just press record. I did no editing on it, and I just talked through the story. This is the start of the story, where the rooms, multi-purposing our rooms, and, my Fève Delicieuse, my Christian Dior got dropped on the ground. It's very special. I love it. I love it with my heart. And I was putting the makeup on, and I was just talking. I was talking, to a person, like I was talking to a person watching, just saying that I will wear a little bit of makeup on my first video because, I'm making an effort. I'm here to make an effort. I'm not going to not make an effort for my first YouTube video. So that is what I did on my first YouTube video. But I might see if I can unearth a little bit of that and just play, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds of it at the end of this video. So I will do that. So basically, you cannot grow without going through the awkward stage. Can you relate? Can you relate to any of these mistakes? We've talked about expecting to feel comfortable on camera too soon, overthinking your niche like it's a life sentence. That's a bit dramatic, isn't it? Making videos for validation instead of service. Designing thumbnails that you fall in love with. They're thumbnails for you, not for stopping the scroll. And I'll just see, I think there was one more, and then treating YouTube like it is a one-way presentation, like a little death by PowerPoint, as opposed to a conversation. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked anything about this video, and if you have got to this far in the video, thank you so much. Please, if you liked it, can you like my video? Hopefully you've left me a comment, and if you have not yet hit the subscribe button, now's a good time, because before the video ends. Okay, thanks for watching. So I have totally got a bit of a story to share, and because I am sitting up in my bed at the moment, actually finishing having my dinner and having a low-calorie beer, I thought I would make a really quick video just to tell you about something that happened this afternoon. So basically I was coming down the... Look, why am I putting on makeup? I'm sitting in bed, I've had my shower tonight, and I'm putting some makeup on. Well, you know what? No one's going to say that I am not making an effort for my YouTube videos, alright? So this is what's happening here. So, and you'll see why I'm never going to be making makeup videos either, because I'm kind of a half a trick pony on a good day, actually. Yep. So basically I went to the supermarket. We all know how fun the supermarket is at the moment. You know, did the queues, did all the talking, got the small talk. So how was your Easter break? Well, hey, you know, just chilled at home, didn't really do a lot, but really nice of the nice young girl to ask anyway. But anyway, so I'm walking from the car carrying some shopping, and Jordan, that's my big son, he suddenly comes up while he was taking the Rabbit movie for a walk, comes up from downstairs and says to me, "Mum, oh, I've got an apology to make to you." And of course, you know, no one really is sure what that's about. And I said, "Oh, you know, what's that about?" And he said, "Oh, Mum, I broke one of your perfumes." So of course I go into, "Oh, which one is it?" He said, "Oh, a white one." So I'm thinking, okay, I've got a couple of things that look a bit, yeah, see, I'm just, you know, I think Anastasia Beverly Hills can't save these eyebrows. I mean, there's a lot she can do, and hey, I believe in her. I'm buying that stuff. I want to believe. I'm a believer. But yeah, so turns out it was this one. And looks like this inside. So basically I just wanted to say that, you know, in the whole scheme of things, we know that there's a lot of really sad and really horrible things happening in the world at the moment. Okay, don't have any lip stuff, that's alright. Oh, I've got this nice little sample here. I'm not really a foundation person, but I do have this little sample, and I do quite like it. So make an effort for the YouTube videos. So yeah, basically I'm sitting here in my bedroom. I can smell Fève Délicieuse really strongly, you know, and perfume's not important, but you know, I feel pretty bummed about that. And the reason why I feel really bummed about it is that I'll show you on my phone. I was just taking photos of it the other day, just because